Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Bylaws 101 webinar. My name is Mary Sotomayor, and I am the New York State PTA Vice President and also the designated officer for the Leadership Development Team. It is my awesome pleasure to introduce you to our wonderful, fantastic, awesome Leadership Development Coordinator, Robin Brumfeld.
Good evening, and thank you so much to our wonderful host, Patty, and our lovely DO, Mary Sotomayor. My name is Robin Cook Brumfield, and I am really thrilled to be with you tonight as your leadership development coordinator. And, as you know, I'm part of the leadership team. One of our members is not available, and that her name is Kathleen McEnroe. She's our technology specialist, along with Mary as our DO. And that makes up our team. And we're just happy that we're able to come together and provide this awesome webinar. But let me just tell you why we're doing these webinars. Did you know that, looking at these webinars and participating in the webinars, you could actually enroll and possibly receive the leadership awards pin, a leadership development pin. And what do you need to do? You need to attend at least 6 of the webinars, and you have to absorb the knowledge, of course, and apply it to your units or councils, and really show how the information that is being shared and how you are able to allow it to go into absorb and utilize these skills in your actual units and or council. And then once you do that, you've completed these steps, and then you can apply for the webinar. I mean, not the webinar, the leadership development pin, which will be awarded to our applicants during SLC, this coming SLC, which is going to be a nice camp theme. So I hope to see you all then in July. But, we're going to get ready to dive in. But before we dive in, I just want you to know what's so important about this webinar is we are all, just so everyone understands, that each one of your units, each one of your councils is a not-for-profit, and you are bound by your bylaws. That's the foundation of what we are and what we're doing. And so and sometimes someone will ask me a question, well, can we do da 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 da? Can we da da da? First thing I'll say is, what do your bylaws say? What do your bylaws say? And you need to, as presidents or leaders within your units, you should always just have a printed copy of your bylaws with you so that you are able to refer to it. That is the foundation of your PTA unit. That is the foundation. So we are so happy that we have with us Jerry, who's going to give us all of the
Micah,
information.
next time you poop, flush the toilet.
Up. Let's make sure she's muted. So we're gonna, go, and we're happy to have Jerry come, and Jerry's going to come and give us the information that we need to know so that we can run our businesses in the way and the manner in which New York State and national would have us run. And I just want to say that before she does that, there's a special. I'm going to kick it back to. I'm going to kick it to Jerry, and so I want you to know there's a special question that will unlock the key to saying, hey, I went to this workshop. And the special question for this workshop, and I'm sure Jerry's going to cover it, is where would you find the link to the bylaws wizard? And I'm just telling you to listen carefully. I'm sure Jerry's going to cover it. I want to thank Jerry for coming out. Jerry is the bylaws coordinator, and she has been doing a phenomenal job. Last year, a lot of our units had to change and update their bylaws because of the new financial piece component from national. So you can just imagine all what she was doing, and she made sure our bylaws were updated, our bylaws were done, And now most of you have your bylaws so that you can run your businesses, run your units. So without further ado, I'm going to give it to Jerry. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna share here. And here we go. Here we go. As Robin said, I'm Jerry Lahane. I am the state bylaws coordinator. And there are 12 regions, and each region has their own bylaws chair that helps me out. Okay, so what are the bylaws? They are the framework that guides each PTA and the councils in what we do each day. They're designed to help every group function in an orderly manner. The bylaws are all the rules that we are very important, and it cannot be changed without previous notice or cannot be suspended. Every member of the board, every officer and member of the board should have a copy of the bylaws and be familiar with them. Members who want to look at the bylaws should come to a meeting, and the officers can explain what is in the bylaws to them. And the bylaws have to be updated every 3 years to remain in good standing. And up-to-date bylaws are required by per the IRS 501c3 regulations. Their bylaws are valid for approximately 3 years. Depending on when you submit your bylaws, they will expire every 3 years on either January 1st, April 1st, July 1st, or October 1st. They can be reviewed at any time and be resubmitted, but they must be done at least every 3 years. And the bylaws have to be entered into the bylaws wizard, whether you are making changes or not making changes. The committee of 3 to 5 members must review the old bylaws and decide, are you keeping things the same or are you changing things? The bylaws must be put through the bylaws wizard because we need electronic bylaws. We do get people who send us where they have updated the old bylaws and then sent us an email saying, here's our bylaws. Unfortunately, we have to say, no, we can't accept this. You got to put it through the bylaws wizard. And then the information that is requested in the wizard can be changed in your bylaws. No other clauses or information can be added. Anything that is specific to the running of your PTA, how you do your credit cards, or how some of your officers will run committees and stuff, have to be put in your procedures. They must be adopted by all your registered members. People who are not members cannot vote on it, and has to be done at a regular general membership meeting. The president will have to give 30 days notice prior to the vote. A quorum has to be established at that meeting, and then 2/3 people voting in the affirmative will make the bylaws pass. And no proxy votes are accepted. You can't have somebody call in and say, yeah, I vote for it. Everybody has to either be there in person or if you have an online meeting. Changes will be entered. Well, you should enter any changes that were made from the previous bylaws in the meeting minutes and the result of the vote. So there is a record in case there are questions later on. Did you vote? Yes, we had, this is our adoption date. Yes, we did change the dues to this. And then once they're adopted, the complete and signed cover page must be sent via email or mail to the region bylaws chair. The council bylaws are a little bit different. You would have the 3 to 5 people on your bylaws committee, and but then at the council meeting, you would review it, and then all the council delegates and the presidents would bring it back to the individual units. they would have to give 30 days notice to that you're going to be reviewing and voting on the council bylaws. Once that's reviewed, then you would send it back to the council. The unit president would contact the council president and say, yes, we voted. Once every unit that's part of the council has voted, then you would come back and the council president would then give 30 days, another 30 days to let them know, let the council delegates and presidents know that, yes, we're going to be voting, totally voting on the bylaws on this date, and then you're all done. So with the council bylaws, you need to do it a few months before. And the same thing, once it's adopted, you would send in the signed cover page to the region bylaws chair. Now, if the bylaws are expired, it causes the unit not to be in good standing with New York State PTA and National PTA. Your unit or council would not be eligible for any grants through New York State PTA or National PTA, any awards or scholarships for your students. You wouldn't be able to participate in park reflections and the different grants. You would not be able to submit excuse me, a resolution at the New York State Convention. You wouldn't be able to send members as voting delegates to the convention, and delegates and presidents and the presidents are not allowed to vote at council meetings and also at region PTA annual meetings. All this, will affect not your organization, but your parents, teachers, and staff. Oops, back. Okay, so every time the officers come in, they should check their bylaws for the expiration date, and then make a note of when they're expiring, and then between 3 to 6 months before they expire, it's time to get started by forming your bylaws committee to review. And the bylaws committee should be given a copy of the current bylaws and then steps to update the bylaws and the bylaws wizard's instructions. And those instructions are found on the New York State website, nyspta.org. You click on the leaders tab and then the bylaws procedures. This is what the homepage of the New York State PTA website now looks like. And you would just go to the leaders tab, and then you get this drop down menu. Excuse me. And then you would hit the leaders or the bylaws, the bylaws and procedures. And then you find your bylaws wizard link. And also on this page, you'll find the instructions. And if you scroll all the way down, you'll find a listing of the names of the region bylaws chairs and their email addresses. Okay, so after you got your bylaws committee has looked at everything and you've figured out what you want to do, it's time to go into the wizard and put things in. Excuse me. And the process should take you no more than 15 minutes. Okay, so now when you click on that link, you get to this page and you will enter in your unit code. And unit code is on the first page of your old bylaws. And you put in the first 2 digits, and then there's a dash and there's 3 more digits, and that's what you put in here. Then you would, to the person who is putting these in, will put in your first name, your last name, and your email address. And the finished bylaws document will be sent to your email address. And then just a reminder to read in all the instructions. Okay, and then after you put your email address in and your name, you're going to get this page that you can check all the numbers that are on your on your old bylaws to make sure that everything is fine. Now, if you don't have on your old bylaws the New York State tax exempt number, all that means is that it was never sent to the New York State for us to put it in here. So if you know what the number is, you would click on no, and then you would get this screen, and you would put anything that's in there. If the school has changed from a PO box to using their address, you would put it in here. But if your unit has changed their name, you're going to have to talk to the region bylaws chair and the region director, because we have other things that we have to do. We have to let the IRS know that you have changed your name, and we have to let the sales tax department know. So it's not just putting it in here. You have to let the region director know. Okay, so then here you put in your president's name and your secretary's name. And usually you're not putting in a membership adoption date yet, because you don't know when you're going to be voting on this. Some units do vote on it before they put it in, then you would put the membership adoption date in there. Okay, so now we get to the dues. You would put in what you're going to be charging for your standard dues, that for one person, for the next additional family member, what students will pay, and what teachers will pay. Now, the additional family member is not what family membership. It's for one person. If you happen to make a mistake and put in the family membership, we're going to let you know, and we'll get in touch with you and we'll get it changed. Just a reminder, as of July 1st of this past year, the dues were changed to $5 that we send to National PTA and keep in New York State PTA. So if you happen to put in $4, we're going to get it changed for you. Okay, then your president structure, you can either have a president, a co-president, or you can have a president and president-elect. Now, with the president and president-elect, you will never vote for the president. You will only be voting for the president-elect, because the next year that president-elect becomes the president. The vice presidents, you can have by designated order, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, or you can have by job title, VP of legislation, VP of membership, but you're not going to be putting what the vice presidents by job title were going to be, but you can have as many as you need. Now, with the at-large, the orders and duties are determined by your procedures, but if you have an at-large VP, they can only serve those 2 years. If you have a designated order VP, they can become the first vice president, can become the second vice president. They'd have 2 more years. But the at-large, you can only serve those 2 years. Then you'd have to have 1 year out of office and then become another, have another 2 years as the at-large, or you could go on and become one of the other officers. If you're only going to have one VP, you just click on one VP and you would put 1 in the number of vice presidents. If you're not going to have any vice presidents, then you put in, leave it as 0. If you're going to have, if their designated officer is, you have 3, then you put 3 down in your number of vice presidents. Secretary, you can either have just 1 secretary, or you can have recording and corresponding secretaries. The officer term is for either 2 consecutive 1-year terms or 1 2-year term. So you get to decide that. And then for the nominating committee, you get to decide that, with the unit and the committee gets to decide how many people from the executive board. The executive board is the officers plus the standing chairman, like membership chairman or chairman of fundraising. So you get to decide how many members of the board are going to be the members of the committee and how many people you're going to have from your association. The number has to be an uneven number because you want to be able to not be deadlocked on who you're going to be picking as your officers. And then you have to decide if you're going to elect an alternate to the committee, yes or no. And then you decide whether you are going to be doing your election meeting or your annual meeting in either March, April, May, or June. Then you also can decide if you're going to have additional nominations from the floor. The clause is that additional nominations may be made from the floor, provided written consent of the nominee has been secured and the chair of the nominating committee has received notice at least 2 business days prior to the election meeting of the candidate's intention to run. If you do want to have people to be nominated, just to give them you have to say yes for the 2 days notice. You can always have nominations from the floor. It just depends. Do you have the 2 days notice or do the people just show up and get nominated? If you're a unit that has contested elections frequently, you would want to have the additional nominations, have the 2 days so that you have paper ballots ready for your election.
Jerry,
Yep.
may I stop and ask a question? Because I
Yes.
really don't know the answer to this right now, and I'm sure you're going to be able to help me with it. So we have a question regarding the length of the term that a president can serve.
Mm-hmm.
And in typical settings, it's 1 2-year term, if that's what the bylaws calls for, or 2
Mhm.
1-year terms.
Yes.
So a 1-year term and then reelected to a second year.
Yep.
Those are the 2. But when
Yes.
there is a president-elect involved,
Yes.
if it's a 1-year term, do they only get to serve 1 year and then the president-elect comes after the end of the 1 year?
They serve their first year as the president-elect, and then they serve their second year as the president.
Okay. So it's only 1 year as
Yes.
technically with the title of president.
Yes, just 1 year as the president and 1 year as the president-elect.
Okay, thank you for that. That was a question
Yep.
in the chat and I wasn't sure.
Yep, and even if you have, the whichever way you do it, the 2 1-year terms or the 1 2-year term, you only get those 2 years in either one of those offices. You don't get 2 years as the president-elect and 2 years as president. It's just those 2 years you serve.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay. The nominating committee report, you get to decide if you're going to publish the report 1 month prior to the meeting or 2 weeks prior to the meeting. And by publishing, you send it out by email to all your members, or you put it on Facebook, or however you get your information out. You put out that we're having this meeting, and just this is when we're having the meeting, and these are the people who have been nominated. You only have 1 person per office also. Okay, and then you get to decide if you're going to have your immediate past president as part of your executive committee, which is your officers, or not. you can decide, and if you don't want the immediate past president, you would click on no additional members. And then for the executive board, which is your officers and your committee chairman, and your council delegates, if you're part of a council, you can also, here you can put in your immediate past president, you can have the principal on your executive board, teacher liaisons, a parliamentarian, which would be somebody who doesn't vote, a student rep, that's only for like a middle school or a high school, a historian, but the building and director representatives are only for SEPTAs, SEPSAs, or central PTSAs, because they have more than one building. If you only have one building, you wouldn't have directors or building representatives. Okay, so if you are part of a council, you would put in, you would enter here the number of delegates that you would have in addition to your president who attends the council meetings. Now, if your council has 2 or 3 delegates in their bylaws, we want you to have the same number of delegates in your bylaws. Doesn't matter if they have 3 and you can only get 1 volunteer, that's fine. We want you to put in the 3 because we want you to have as many opportunities for your volunteers to volunteer. So if you want, because in the past we had, a council would say they have 2 delegates and they say, well, we can only have 1. So they'd put down 1 and then suddenly they'd have 2 people that wanted to do it. The council said, yes, they could, but their bylaws said, nope, we can't. So we want you to have everything match the council bylaws so you have as many people that volunteer as they want. And then you get to decide whether they're nominated and elected at the same time the officers, they're appointed by the president, elected by the executive board. And if you don't have a council, you would click on not applicable. See. And then you get to decide on your quorum. But it has to be at least 10. And then it is also twice the number of your officers. So if you had co-presidents, or a president, and then you had 2 vice presidents, and you had recording and corresponding secretary and a treasurer, that's 6 officers. You would have 12 as your quorum. Then you're going to come up, when you finish your quorum, you're going to get this to please review your responses. So you would click on the previous button till you get to the front and just review to make sure that you have clicked on the right things, because with those little buttons, it's very easy to click the wrong thing. And then if you see that everything is all correct, you would hit next. And then you would get this screen just telling you to review the bylaws. If you find anything that needs to be changed, contact your region bylaws chairman. And they will make all the necessary changes so you don't have to go through it, put in a new one, because sometimes we end up with 2 or 3 duplicate records from a unit because they keep putting things in. Just don't go through the wizard a second time. Just let us know that you made a mistake and we will take care of it. And then you have to give you 30 days notice. And when it's approved, you fill in the adoption date on the cover page, get the signatures of your president and your secretary, and send it to your bylaws chair. And then click on finish, and then you'll get your bylaws. But just when you hit the finish, it'll come back to, there's a glitch in the system. It'll go back to where you have to put in your information. Don't do that. We haven't figured out a way to fix that glitch. So don't continue, just X out of the system and you'll get your form. Excuse me. And now we're going to go over the council bylaws because there are some screens that are the same and then there's some that are different. We're just going to go over the ones that are a little different. So the council, you can structure your dues several different ways. You can do the same dues, $100 or $200 for each unit, or you can decide for different dues for each unit. If you decide on the same you would get here, you just put in the dollar amount. You don't have to put decimals, just put it in, $200 per unit. If you want to do it different for each one, 300 for elementary, 200 for the secondary, and 100 for SEPTA, whatever you decide. If you decide that you don't have SEPTAs, you would put in a 0. Now, when you can have, several delegates from each unit, or you can have, different delegates from each type of schools. The fixed delegate would look like this, and you would put in, you want the number 2 delegates per unit, 3 delegates per unit, whatever. And then if you want the varied delegates, you could put in 2 for elementary, 1 for secondary, and 1 for SEPTA. Or if you don't want any for SEPTA, put in 0. Then this is also in addition to the unit president. The nominating committee, there's 2 different ways of putting together your nominating committee. You can have 1 member from each that's elected from each unit, or you can have a different number of members that are elected from the voting body of the council. So in this example, this council had 12 members, 12 member units. So they can put in, how many, committee members that they want. Or you have to have an uneven number. So since they had 12 units, they would have to have at least 1 in there. They can do 1, 3, whatever. They wanted just to make sure that it's an uneven number. You can also have there are some councils that have like 20 units that are in, so they decide that they don't want to have all 20. So they would say, all right, we're going to have 7 members that we elect from the voting body, which would be the chairs of their standing committees, their officers, and the delegates from each of the schools. So they would pick and they would elect whatever number of people they want for their committee. And then they can decide also if they want to have people from the association who are not on the executive board. So if you don't want to have other people, you would put 0 in there. So once you put in what you want, it'll total how many, so that this group, they had 12 units and they put in 1, so they ended up with 13. And then they can decide again, are they going to elect an alternate to the committee, yes or no? And then the drop down menu for the election month and the annual meeting. And for their executive board, they can have the president of each member unit, the immediate past president, the council delegates, superintendent, or their designee, teacher liaisons, parliamentarian, the school board liaison, and historian. So they get to pick whatever possible members they want. And then after you get that, you get to please review your forms. You go back to the previous to check everything. And then when you hit next, your bylaws document will be generated. You get the same thing, review your bylaws. Don't put a new one in to duplicate it. If everything looks fine, print your document and give 30 days notice. Um, Okay, so the same thing, don't go through it a second time because of the glitch. And then you get your copy, will be emailed. Another thing saying, don't go through it the second time. We do get quite a few. And then you received, once the region and the state, myself will review the bylaws, and then you'll get an approved bylaws. It'll be signed, electronically signed by me, and then you know that it is the final copy. But your bylaws cannot be approved until your signed cover sheet is received by your chair, the region bylaws chair. And if they're not completed within 6 months, the record will probably be deleted and you'll have to start all over again. Okay, so the next steps, the region bylaws chair, or the RBC, will receive an email from the wizard system that notifies them that a new document has been entered. They're going to contact the PTA or council to verify the changes that were made from the previous bylaws are the ones that are correct, because sometimes people will click the wrong things. So if they have any changes, the RBC will make the changes and then they will approve them. But after your members have adopted the new bylaws, the president and recording secretary must sign the front page, write in the date of the adoption meeting, and then email a copy to the RBC. The region bylaws chair will enter the adoption date and the date that they received the front page into the wizard system, and then they will approve. Then I'll get an email saying that the region has approved the bylaws. I'll do another review just to make sure everything is fine. And then I'll give the final approval, and the final document will be sent out to the person who sent in the original document. And here is a list of all the region bylaws chairs for this year. This can also be found on New York State PTA bylaws procedures, and that's the the most up-to-date list of the bylaws chairs will be there. And then here's some other links for the bylaws, the procedures page, the link to the bylaws wizard, the steps to revising bylaws, and then the unit and council bylaws. Okay, any questions?
Yes, Gary, I have some questions that people have
Okay.
posted that I thought would be good for you to answer rather than me typing. So I'm just
Okay.
going to scroll back up to them and get started if you're
Okay.
ready. Okay.
Yep, I'm all ready.
All right. The first question is, if a person is elected as a co-president, can they be elected as a president for the following year?
If the one of the co-presidents is resigning, will not be continuing on for the second year, they can stay on as the president. Because the bylaws, when you read them, they say the structure of the officers is a president or co-presidents. So that covers both. But if you've finished your 2 years, you can be elected as the president but usually we tell people that you need to have a year in between before you become the president again, to give other people some chance to be officers.
Thank you for that. And for a fun fact, right? Our bylaws, the work that we do, parliamentary procedures based on Robert's Rules of Order.
Yes.
But we also know that Robert doesn't really like co-presidents, but we have made them work. So we can always help with those. Okay, my next question is, can the same person serve as president for 1 year and then as treasurer the next? Can
Yes.
people rotate their positions?
Yes. People can rotate the positions, but we don't want you to do it for 6 years if you're in an elementary school. We want you to be able to let other people get in there and learn the positions and do things. But there are times where nobody steps up. So a president will do their 2 years and go and be the treasurer or be the secretary or whatnot. But if you have other people that are willing to do it, let them do it.
Okay. I'm going to move on to the next question.
Okay.
If we are a group, and it sounds like the whole group has been elected together for a 1-year term, and now it's time for re-election, if one of the people in that group chooses to say, I'm not able to accept re-election, they're not required to continue, correct?
No, no, no. If excuse me.
That's okay.
If you have the 2 1-year term, then you have to be elected for your second term. You can't just automatically, because you have to be elected. If you have the 1 2-year term, you don't have to be elected that second year. You serve 2 years. So if somebody is the secretary for 1 year and is eligible for a second year but can't do it, well, then you elect somebody else.
Thanks. And while we're doing these questions, if we're not getting the right answer or a clarification answer for the person who asked it, don't hesitate to raise your hand and we can follow up with that as well. I just want to clarify one thing, and it is a common thing that happens with our units. The role of the officers encompasses the executive committee. As Jerry pointed out earlier, the executive board, or what we call the board of your unit, actually incorporates your standing committee chairs as well. So it's a much larger group. The board in whole is not elected. Just the officers that are the executive committee of that board are elected. The rest are appointed. So there's that. Okay, this is a really good question too. What happens if you have vacancies in some of your officer roles? You maybe have in your bylaws for 6 officers, but right now only 3, the 3 required are filled, which are the president, secretary, and treasurer. Does that do anything to affect your quorum?
No. If you have 6 of them, 6 officers in your bylaws, yes, you should have a quorum of 12. If you want to lower it to 10, then you should go back and redo your bylaws and take out some of your vice presidents or whatnot. Or if if you have, recording and corresponding secretaries in your bylaws and you can only find 1, go and change your bylaws so you have only 1 secretary.
Okay, I think that's great. And then there's been a lot of questions of who can actually serve on the bylaws review committee.
Oh, okay.
So people have asked, can the president, can the secretary? If you could just clarify that would be great.
On for the bylaws committee, anybody can serve on it. You can have, it can just be the officers if you want, or you can have, 1 or 2 officers and then other people from the association. That's for you to decide. There isn't anything that precludes anybody from being on the bylaws committee.
Okay, I'm saving one of the best questions for last, but the next question is, how much time before the expiration date of the bylaws is it recommended for new bylaws to be submitted in the wizard and sent to the region bylaws chair?
Usually you should start putting together your bylaws committee at least 3 months beforehand. And then you would put your bylaws in, and then you would give them a month. So you want to have it down and ready to go at least a month before, by voting on it at least a month before the expiration date. If you can. Sometimes snowstorms happen, whatnot. And also if you have put your bylaws in and they expire, you're conditionally considered still current because you have done what you need to do. You're just waiting for the adoption date. So you conditionally are still okay.
Okay. And this next question isn't technically for you as bylaws coordinator. So I'm happy to say that we have some other New York State people on the call, myself, our leadership development coordinator, our DO, our vice president DO for leadership development. Here is the question. So we had the question earlier. Let me get back up to it about the how long a president can stay on if with a president-elect situation. And then the question really has come up, what happens if we cannot find somebody to fill the role, one of the officer roles? Specifically, president is the question. As we know, again, the three main officer positions that need to be filled for our nonprofit status are, as Jerry pointed out, president, secretary / recording secretary, or treasurer. So what happens if we can't fill somebody there?
The officer can stay on for a while. You can't be reelected for a third term, but you can stay on and keep saying, we need somebody to take my position. We need somebody to take my position. And then finally, when you get somebody who will step up, then you would have your election. Now, if you have in there that you have a vice president, you don't, and you can't find anybody, then that would be a vacant position. You wouldn't need, to do anything until you find somebody. Then you would have your election.
Okay, thank you for that. And again, I think I answered it earlier in one of the questions. Again, if there is a vice president that it's already in the bylaws that they would serve the role of president. So if you're a vice president and you're stepping up to serve as president, and it doesn't appear that you're going to have somebody to fill that role, it really does behoove you to say, we need to have that role filled. And as a vice president serving, I'm willing to accept the different title. But the other thing is you really need to make sure that you let it be known in your community that you're looking for somebody, so that again, the opportunity to bring on new people exists, and that's what your region is there for. Everybody has a region director with assistants and associate directors that are assigned to support our units. So if you want to reach out to them for some tips and tricks that might help your particular situation to bring on that officer that we need, please don't hesitate to reach out. I see Robin has her hand raised.
I do. Thank you so much, Patty. There was a question in the chat in regards to charging nothing for dues. How does a unit do that? And and then how do you become a member?
I think that was for a council. So
for a council.
How much
councils
should they
don't
charge their
dues.
SEPTA
Oh,
unit
okay,
for
I
a
got you,
council?
I got you.
And
Oh,
if
I thought
I'm
it was
wrong
a
about that,
unit.
Junanella, you can, because I think it was your question, if you want to raise your hand and we can bring you on to clarify that. But it was to follow up on
It
a
wasn't a
council.
unit. Okay, because I was like, how do they charge? Okay, thank you. 'Cause I was,
Okay.
and I did have a question. I put it in the chat. Corporate membership, community membership, you're just able to regulate that amount, and is that in the bylaws? Is that where we're saying we want to get community members?
No, community members, that would be something that the unit would put in givebacks. It's not part of the bylaws. And the family membership also, that is part of givebacks. But the additional family member is for one person. So if you want to have a husband, a wife be the standard member, and the husband would be the additional family member, you can charge, $5 or $6 for the additional family member and $10, whatever you want to charge. You can charge a lower amount for the additional family member.
And I don't want to take away, but I was listening to you, but I don't remember if you talked about procedures. So did you cover that tonight? And should we be doing our procedure?
You can't
Good.
add anything to the bylaws. You have to put it into your procedures.
And if you don't have procedures, is there a procedures wizard?
Nope. But there
That's a good
is,
idea, though.
yeah. But if you go to the bylaws, if you go to the resource guide and you look
Mhm.
at the, I forget what's the number of it, but it says bylaws procedures. There is, they list all the different types of procedures that you can have. You know, something to do with your officers,
Mhm.
the treasurer, and that's where you would put, you know, if you're a unit that uses credit cards and you have a procedure of how who's going to be doing the credit card, how much they can charge, that's where you would put it. You would put it
Okay,
in the procedures.
thank you.
Okay, and I'm just going to check in with June to make sure that we answered her question properly.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you can hear me. Oh,
Yep.
we
Yeah,
have a new
I can.
computer and I'm not savvy at all, even on the old one. But that was for a council. And I had a follow-up question, which you were already talking, so you may not have answered it, but maybe you can answer that now. Is the wizard able to put a 0 in if you're not going to charge one of the units in a council?
I believe you can just put 0 if they're not going to be doing it. And
Okay.
it's not like the unit where you have to put in, you know, at least $5. For the council, they can decide whatever they want to do
Okay.
with
Thank
the
you so much.
regard
I
to the
appreciate
dues.
your
Yeah,
answers.
yeah.
So, Helena, to answer your question, and Jerry, I'm going to ask you to jump in along with me because it's a membership question per se, so we'll talk about it. It sounds like New York State PTA recognizes members slash additional members, but not community or family memberships. And so, I don't know, Jerry, do you feel comfortable talking about how we base all the
Yeah.
memberships off a standard and then?
a region membership chair. So yes.
Yes. So also
Many
that's a great,
hats.
yes. So we have region bylaws chairs, region membership chairs. So
Membership
Jerry, you
chairs. Yep.
can add for that because you do wear that.
In the bylaws, we only have those 4. We have the standard member, we have the additional family member, the student, and the teacher and staff. When you go into givebacks, you can decide that you want to charge a community member $15, or you want to do a corporate sponsorship or a business sponsorship for 25, 30, whatever you want to use. That would totally be just in givebacks.
But
Okay.
the language, do we use this language for Jerry to say that for the person who is a community member? So like myself, like I still join the PTA unit that from the elementary school that my children went to. And say there was a community membership on there for $15, but for if I was a parent in the building or the standard membership was $5, does it come back and say that $5 went towards your membership and $10 is a donation? Or
That the unit would have to put there's a section in givebacks where the unit would put that down,
Okay.
saying that, you know, $5 is for your membership, and then, you know, the other is considered a donation.
I have a question. If we opted to have community members become members, or I guess make donations, or people even to donate, just to donate money to the PTSA, for our unit, would they be recognized as a PTSA member?
Yes, yes.
Okay. It's
Yep.
just that they're not recognized, I guess, under your structure since you only recognize the 4, but we would still track them and give backs.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, got it.
It would be, they would probably be considered a standard member, and then, you know, that's how they would get tracked.
Thank you.
So just so we're clear, again, in order to get a person, whether they're a standard as a family member or a parent, an adult person in this storm of the skills of the church sorry. When we have all those people that are in the school that are part of the PTA, if they're counted as being members in voting, we are collecting money for them and considering them a member. But if there are some people that are just donating money to the PTA, So again, if they're just giving $15 as a donation to the PTA organization to receive, we can accept that as a donation, but though that person is not then can count it as
You
a
can set
member.
up,
So they're not
in-
accepted as a member. So it's either the $15 is either a member with the extra part that is the donation that gets to be a member. If it's donation and just a donation, that person does not count as one of the members of
and
the
when
unit.
when you're putting in the members manually in givebacks, it'll come up with, are they a community member or are they an alumni? And you can, they can put themselves in as community, but that would be the corporate sponsor because they're part of the community. So when they did it, they would put down their community member.
Got it. Thank you.
Mhm. More questions?
Yeah, I think we have all the questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn off the recording for now.
Okay.
But we will continue to keep rolling along if there are more questions.
Well, I definitely wanted to, before we
Before I turn off.
discontinue
Okay.
anything, I wanted to thank Jerry. The information was so awesome. And if I was a person that was the president and CEO of a corporation and I had to understand the bylaws, and I would be able to understand the bylaws based upon what you have shared. You have given us the information that we needed as leaders in our PTA units from soup to nuts. There's nothing that we can't do. We know what linked to go find the PTA wizard. We know what we have to do. We know when we have to bring into our region assistance. Thank you so very
welcome.
much. I just want to thank you for all the information that you shared. It was outstanding. And
if people come up with more questions as things go on, just, my email is bylaws@nyspta.org. Don't hesitate to send me an email.
Thank you so much. And as I said, Jerry is the New York State PTA bylaws coordinator, and she has been doing a phenomenal job. I also want to thank Patty, our president, for hosting and handling those questions like a champ. Thank you so much, Patty.
It's a pleasure.
And no,
There's
this was really outstanding. And again, as our president said, if you have any more questions, feel free to share or put them in the chat, as Jerry said, you can reach out to her and she'll be more than happy to share that. If someone can put Jerry's email in the chat, so this way everyone could get that. And Jerry, if you want to say your email address again.
Yep, I'm typing it in. There we go.
Okay, and if you can say it for us.
Yep. bylaws@nyspta.org.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, so I just encourage everyone to definitely reach out to Jerry, and if you have any other questions, because you never know, because we have changes in our bylaws. Also, are you available if we have questions about procedures?
Yes.
Okay, great. So if we
Yep.
have bylaws and procedures, and again, there are things that the bylaws wizard, there are things that you can change, and
Yeah.
procedures
A lot of
gives you
people
the
will
wiggle
say,
room.
I want to put this in the bylaws. Well, you can't. And I
Right.
tell them, you need to go to this section and you'll see just a listing of all the different procedures that you can have, and you can just cut and paste them or copy and paste them from the resource guide.
I see June has a question.
Yeah, yes, I do. I have another question.
Okay.
If our bylaws were updated before the new amounts of money, do
Mhm.
we have to put in to revise our bylaws or not until the next time?
If the unit put in the Google form last year,
Mm-hmm.
then it has been updated in givebacks as to what you wanted it to be. And then when your bylaws are up again, you can just take it from givebacks and put it into your new bylaws.
Okay.
I'm also
thanks.
working working on getting a whole list of who put in Google form, and I have an addendum to send out because the old bylaws say that it that it was $4 that went to between year, and now it's $5. So the addendum that I want to send out to everybody says it's now $5. And then if they put in a Google form and increase their bylaws, I want to their amounts, I'm going to put it on that addendum and send it out to them so they can just add that as the last page of their bylaws, and they have that. I'm just a little slow because every time I get a list, people put in new bylaws. So I'm like, ah,
Thank you.
okay. Any other? Let's see. Yep, president and vice president can be part of the bylaws committee. The only committees that the president cannot be part of is the audit committee and nominations. The president has to not be on the nominating committee, and they cannot be on the audit committee because the president is also a signer of the checking account. So they cannot be on that audit committee, and neither can be the treasurer. Oh, Patty Patricia Jenko, thank you. Yeah, if you send a question to the region bylaws chair and they don't know the question, the answer, they come to me. So, and if I'm not sure of the answer, I go to two other people who used to be the bylaws chairs to say, what do you think? So we have people around that can always get the right answer. And then there's you have a 2-year term as an option because there are units that have it as a 2 1-year terms, and it's confusing to have a rerun for their 2-year. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard when people have the 1 2-year term and then they go to the 2 1-year terms. We have to help them try to figure out, all right, who's still eligible and who's not eligible to be an officer. Well, we work it out. Okay.
I think we've covered everything, and and Patty's very quick about getting the responses in the chat. So answering the questions in the chat. But I again want to thank you, Jerry, thank Patty, thank Mary, thank all of the state representatives that joined us and the region representatives that joined us and our leaders. Because this makes us stronger by having that knowledge. And I ask everyone um if you are interested in applying for the webinar of the leadership development pin, again, this is information you can definitely take back to your units and councils and implement it, and just let us know how it was done. Jerry, I just can't thank you enough. I'm going to push procedures in a lot of my units that I'm assisting. I'm an AD for the region, and I think it's just important because, like I said, lots of things are not covered in the bylaws, but you can make them available in your procedures. And the procedures, let me just ask, they have to be voted on and everything, just as the bylaws are. Great, thank you. It's not where I
Yes,
could just slip them
but
in. Great,
they
thank you.
the bylaws, you have to have everybody vote on them. For
Mhm.
procedures, for some of the procedures, you just have to have the executive committee vote on them because they
Okay.
only pertain to them.
And the executive committee is not just the officers, it's the chairs and
Executive
because I think that
exec-
clarification is needed.
The
A lot
executive
of people,
committee is the officers, the board is
oh,
the
oh,
officers
the,
and the committee chairman.
oh, okay. So the executive committee, so they're the only ones that have to vote on the procedures, but you
Usually
can
it's your
present
board.
them to the entire membership.
It depends. If it's something that just goes for, it would just be your board that would be, you would only need to have, if you have things written out for what each one of the vice presidents, then you would have your board look at it and say, yeah, we agree with that. If it's something that goes for everybody within the association, you would want the association to do it.
Okay, thank you. So that's clarification, because if you're just doing procedures just for what the officers does, then that would be the executive officers. If you're
Yeah.
doing it for the executive committee, but if you're doing it for the entire membership and as a whole and the business as a whole, that would be the membership, the members would then,
Yes.
you would present it to them, they would, and just like the bylaws, you would highlight the things that you're putting in there, and then everyone will have an opportunity to review
Yeah.
and vote on
And
them.
bylaws, the procedure should be reviewed every couple of years to see if everything is okay. But you don't have to, if you don't have to revise things, you don't have to redo them. You just revise what you need to be done. Not like
Thank-
having to redo the bylaws, redo everything. If you have one procedure that is a little, you need to make something in it, you just take that one out, revise it, put it back in.
Okay, great. I see Sherry, you have a question?
Actually, what I was going to say is it's more of a suggestion. When you do your procedures, write into the procedures how to update them and who
Mhm.
needs to vote on them, because
Mhm.
that makes it much simpler, because then it's right there. Everybody knows who votes, when, how, notice,
Yep.
all of that.
That's a good idea. Thank you.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
important. That's important. Thank you. That's what, see, that's why we need these RDs on the line. That's it.
Yes.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you. All right. So I think we've kind of, you've done well, Jerry. You've answered our questions above and beyond. I'm going to say to everyone, we can consider this a good night. And thank you again. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Patty. Again, thank you to all of the GT members, the RD region members. This was phenomenal. Thank you, Jerry.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you to all.